Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Gopi Gana Ballabha Girivara Jaya Gopi Gana Ballabha Girivara Yashodanandana Jajadanandana Yashodanandana Jajadanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Yashodanandana Jajadanandana Yashodanandana Jajadanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jai Radha Madhava Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Gaura Primanandi Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgachaja Stotra Satya Sri Simad His Divine Grace Shiraboy Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhaktivedanta Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Janitai Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Taksurandritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Tadvaitam Savalutam Paritana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sivisakanvitam Sya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Siti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tilugasya Kripa Sindhu Vyayevasa Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the Supremost Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil. And loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama-shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasya Namaha. This Srimad-Bhagavatam, known as the Grantha Raj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vātalam pāṅgum nāngāyate girim yatkripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class, continuing from Canto number 7. Canto number 7. 15th chapter. And let's see here. Yes. Text 46. Patpulunam. Yeah. No chat Ramatam Asad Indriya Baji Suta Nivut Patam Vishay Te Dasyava Sahaya Sutam Amum Tamo Ande Samsara Kupa Uru Mrityu Bhaye Kshipanti No Chet Pramatam Asad Indriya Bhajisuta Nivotpatam Vishaya Dashusu Nikshipanti Te Dasyava Sahaya Sutam Amum Tamunde Samsara Kupa Uru Mrityu Bhaye Kshipanti. No Chet Pramatam Asad Indriya Vajisutta Nitvut Patam Vishaya Dasyusu Nikshipanti Te Dasyava Sahaya Sutam Amum Tamunde Samsara Kupa Uru Mrityu bhaye kshipanti. No chat pramatam masad indriya vajisuta. Nitvut patam vishaya dasyushu nikshipanti. Tedasya sahaya sutam amum tamunde. Samsara kupa uru mrityu bhaye kshipanti. No chat pramatam sad indriya vajisutta. Nidvot patam vishaya dasyushu nikshipanti. Te dasyava sahaya sutam amum tamunde. Samsara kupa uru mrityu bhaye kshipanti. No chat. If we do not follow the instructions of Achyuta, Krishna, and do not take shelter of Balaram, Pramatam, careless, inattentive, Asat, which are always prone to material consciousness, Indriya, the senses, Vaji, action as the horses, acting as the horses, Tutaha, the chariot driver, intelligence, Nitva, bringing, Utpatam, to the roadway of material desire, Vishaya, the sense objects, Dasyushu, in the hands of the plunderers, Nikshipanti, throw, Te, those, Dasyava, Sa, with the horses and chariot driver. Amum, all of them. Tamaha, dark. Ande, blind. Samsara kupi, in the well, into the well of material existence. Uru, great. Mrityu, Mrityu bhaye, fear of death. Chipanti, throw. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada ki. Without the protection of Varnitai, Krishna and Balaram, one cannot get out of the dark well of ignorance in material existence. This is indicated here by the word nochet, which means that one will always remain in the dark well of material existence. The living entity must get strength from Nitai Gora or Krishna Balaram. Without the mercy of Nitai Gaur, There is no way to come out of this dark well of ignorance. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, first chapter, second verse, Bande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahorito Gododaye Pushpavantao Chitro Chando Tamo Nado. Translation: I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Goda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance, and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. End of translation. This material world is a dark well of ignorance. The fallen soul in this dark well must take shelter of the lotus feet of Gaura-Nitai, for thus he can easily emerge from material existence. Without their strength, simply attempting to get over or to get out of the clutches of Maya by speculative knowledge will be insufficient. Yes. Translation again. Otherwise, if one does not shelter, if one does not take shelter of Achyuta or Baladeva, and then the senses acting as the horses and the intelligence acting as the driver, both being prone to material contamination, inattentively bring the body, which acts as a chariot, to the path of sense gratification. When one is thus attracted again by the rogues of Vishaya, eating, sleeping, and mating, the horses and chariot driver are thrown into the blinding dark well of material existence, and one is again put into a dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. Yes. So although the Gaura-Nitai are not mentioned in the text, but Achyuta, Krishna, and Balaram are mentioned. So Prabhupada is, of course, bringing in Gaura-Nitai, because Gaura-Nitai, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is none other than Lord Krishna, and Nityananda Prabhu is Balaram. So, material world, as described here, is described in the Bhagavatam as Andakupam, especially family life, grihastha, householder. Not grihastha. Grihastha is meant to be centered, focused on Krishna, on devotional service, but grihamedi, grihastha. So grihamedi life is described as andakupam, very deep, dark well. If one falls in a well and there's no one around, even if there's someone around, it's not something very pleasant, and one could die. And if there's no one around, then definitely one will die. So This is the message being given here without taking shelter of Gaura Nitai or without taking shelter of Krishna Balaram. Then this material intelligence and this material body, this chariot that we have been awarded, will lead us on the path of material activities, sense gratification. And all activities of sense gratification are bad because they are binding. They are binding. Sense gratification means for our own selfish interest or pleasure. And therefore, therefore, the importance of taking shelter of such personalities who are appearing in the material world to show us by personal example. To show us by personal example how to be fully absorbed and engaged in activities that are no longer binding, that are no longer forcing us to remain here in this material world. We tend to forget. The general mass of people actually don't know, cannot understand how dangerous padam padam vyadvi padam. In the Bhagavatam, it describes how every step in the material world is a dangerous step. Padam padam yadvipad yadvipadam natesham. But natesham means for those who take shelter of Krishna, such danger is not there. Why? Because one who takes shelter of the lotus feet of Shri Shri Gaura-Nitai, of Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, that is called becoming situated under the shelter of the Daivi Prakriti. These two energies are at work in the material world, the Mohini Prakriti and the Daivi Prakriti. This is, of course, nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Mogasha Moga Karmano Moga Jnana Vichetasa Rakshasim Asurim Achaiva Mohinim Prakritim Sritaha. Mohini Prakriti means the external material energy, which is fully, completely binding the living entity and a cause of his distress and suffering. So therefore, Hare Krishna. Haribol. Okay. Yeah. Someone just joining. A little late, but it's okay. So it is described how very nicely, actually, the descriptions that we find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as elaborately described by the author, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is establishing the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, describing how both have arisen simultaneously as the sun and the moon. When the sun, right, like now, the sun is very bright. So, without the rays of the sun, we remain in darkness or tamagun. Without the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we remain in darkness. And therefore, those who are devoid of this knowledge and understanding, their situation is actually very precarious, because they are they have no understanding of what their future will be. By the stringent laws of karma, whether we know or don't know, whether we understand or don't understand, for all activities committed which are actually sinful activities, all activities which are not connected with Krishna consciousness, all activities that are on the bodily platform, all activities performed for sense gratification are actually sinful activities for which living entity is bound and must suffer in so many different ways. So this is the, of course, very clear explanation, very elaborate knowledge that is given in the Shastra. And those who are the devotees, those who are fortunate to have this knowledge, one of the important symptoms of one who actually has this knowledge of how to put an end to this cycle of repeated birth and death, then he will very much develop an eagerness to give that knowledge, to share that knowledge. Just like as Srila Prabhupada in the Shastra is describing how the perfection of life is to live in Vrindavan, to live in Radhakund, like in Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Upadeshamrita describing that the perfection of life is to live on the Jamuna Tira, on the bank of the Jamuna, or on the bank of Radhakund and Shamakund. However, those who are in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and those who are especially in the line of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, they are what is called Gosti Anandi. There's two type, Dvamacham, Gosti Anandi and Bhajan Anandi. Bhajan Anandi. So just a few days ago, I was reading how Prabhupada explains the difference between simple understanding, but what is simple is usually quite effective and more easy to understand. So Prabhupada explains what is the difference between Gosi Anandi and Bhajan Anandi. Our line of where Rupanuga, they are meant to be Gosi Anandi. Gosi Anandi means preaching the message, distributing, giving knowledge, giving books, going from village to village. Pritibite ache jota NandiGram sarvatra prasar hoibi moranam. That order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that mood, that mentality. So Prabhupada gave the example. It's just like rasgulla. If you make rasgulla for you, for us, that is very nice, because rasgulla is, everyone likes rasgulla. But if you make rasgulla to distribute, that is better. So Bhajan Anandi means making rasgulla for only one. But Gosi Anandi means making big feasts and distributing prasadam on a large scale. That is the mood and mentality. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, although he was in Vrindavan, the holiest of all places in the material world, the spiritual world manifests in the material world, Bhoma Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada, in the mood and mentality of the Goswamis of Vrindavan, he left Vrindavan. He went to what is considered most degraded place on the planet, New York City. There is like Vrindavan is like like sunshine, and New York City is like andhakar, darkness. Vrindavan is the spiritual world, and New York or any big city, we're not picking on New York particularly. Modern day cities, they're all of the same nature. Modern day city means Rajagun, Tamagun. Bali also. Jakarta. I think Jakarta more than Bali. But all big city in Canada also, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, all the big cities. So that is why Prabhupada and his mood as a preacher, preacher means fighting spirit. Preacher means fighting spirit. Prabhupada would say, Maya is everywhere. We have to fight against Maya. If not fighting, then Maya will finish us off, will completely cover us. We must always be ready to fight against Maya. We must, just like when there is war, one must be very alert, attentive. Where's the enemy? So we read about 17 enemies. We are constantly assailed by so many enemies. Fear, lamentation, anxiety, hunger, fault finding. So many, they're all listed here. Fatigue, sleep. These are all enemies. All different forms of Maya. Material world means the kingdom of Maya. We are living in the kingdom of Maya. We don't belong in the kingdom of Maya. We belong in the kingdom of Krishna. Isn't it? Kingdom of Krishna means Goloka, Vaikuntha. So therefore, if we, without cultivating this knowledge, without taking shelter of Shri Gauritai and Shri Krishna Balaram, and without without preaching, then we will not be able to succeed. So our mission, our our primary objective is to actually following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, following the orders given by Srila Prabhupada and the acharyas, is to give this knowledge. Otherwise, this is the vision of the acharya. This is the vision of the pure devotee, that everyone is being attacked by Maya. Everyone is being not only attacked, but actually everyone being killed. That was Prabhupada's mood and mentality. By not giving Krishna consciousness, parents who don't give Krishna consciousness to their children, teachers who don't give Krishna consciousness to their students, leaders who don't give Krishna consciousness to their citizens, they're killing them. This is the understanding. They're killing them because Atmahana, they are preventing that living entity, that Jivatma, from actually putting an end to his miserable condition. Rather, by feeding them, by giving them false knowledge, false information, by misleading in so many ways, they are increasing their suffering condition in the material world. So, therefore, a devotee needs to have this consciousness, needs to develop this consciousness. And the next verse is a continuation, actually. Yes. So text number 47 can read. Pravritam cha nivrittim cha dvividam karma vaidikam avartate pravrittena nivrittena shnute mritam. Pravritam cha nivrittim cha dvividham karma vaidikam avartate pavittena nivrittena shnute mritam. Pravritam cha nivrittam cha dvividham karma vaidikam avartate pavittena nivrittena shnute mritam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to the Vedas, there are two kinds of activities, pravriti and nivriti. Pravriti activities involve raising oneself from a lower to a higher condition of materialistic life, whereas nivriti means the cessation of material desire. Through pravriti activities, one suffers from material entanglement, but by nivriti activities, one is purified and becomes fit to enjoy eternal, blissful life. In the Bhagavad Gita also, pravritim cha nivritim cha jana navidur asura nasocham napi chacharo na satyam teshu vidyate. Same, because the same philosophy. Pravriti and nivriti. Pravriti means activities of sense gratification, and nivriti means to negate, to stop activities of sense gratification. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 16:7, pravritim cha nivritim cha janana vidur asura. The asuras, non-devotees, cannot distinguish between pravriti and nivriti. Pravritim cha nivritim cha janana vidur. Yeah. Janana vidur asura means one who does not know the difference between what is good and bad, or what is to be done, what is not to be done. He is asura. Whatever they like, they do. That is the maniac mentality. Such persons think themselves independent of the strong material nature, and therefore they are irresponsible and do not care to act piously. Indeed, they do not distinguish between pious and impious activity. Bhakti, of course, does not depend on pious or impious activity, as stated in the Srimad-Bhagavatam 1-6. Savai pumsam paro dharmo jato bhakti radhoksaje ahaituke pratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation, dharma, of all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. Nonetheless, that's the end of the translation. Prabhupada continues here in the purport. Nonetheless, those who act piously have a better chance to become devotees. Yes. Acting piously means with some material motive. That is better than, of course, acting. That is called karma. Karma, vikarma, then karma, vikarma, akarma. Yeah, akarma. Akarma means nice karma. Without karma, tidak karma. So, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritinur juna. O Arjuna, 4 kinds of pious men render devotional service unto me. One who takes to devotional service, even with some material motive, is considered pious. And because he has come to Krishna, he will gradually come to the stage of bhakti. Then, like Dhruva Maharaj, he will refuse to accept any material benediction from the Lord. Swamim kritarthosmi varam dashache. Therefore, even if one is materially inclined, one may take to the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, or Gora and Nitai, so that he will very soon be purified of all material desires. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shasvach chantim nigacchati. As soon as one is freed from inclinations toward pious and impious activities, he becomes a perfect candidate for returning home back to Godhead. So this point is being made here. Even if one still has some material desire, still one should take to bhakti, to the process of devotional service, as this will purify such a living entity, and gradually those material desires will come to an end. And as Prabhupada mentions here, one will become a perfect candidate for returning home back to Godhead. Yes. So in the next few days, we will be continuing here, and Narada Muni will be speaking about ritualistic ceremonies and yajnas, different sacrifices. And some important instructions for householders in the context of yajna, that is samskaras, the purificatory activities that are delineated in the Shastra. Everything is there actually in the Shastra. Where is that word? Yes. Samskara, purificatory process. So the Garbhadhana Samskara, which is something totally unknown in the Western world. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, we come to learn about these different expected activities according to the directions of Shastra. Yes. Okay. So I think for today we can close here. Jai Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna.